Just Beavin, episode number 15. It's live on your screen right now. We got Andy, JP, no Beav. Beav's joining us eventually, though. Don't worry. He will be, we had to film this in parts. He will be joining us a little bit later on in the show, but it's just the two of us for our first six recaps. Beav will come on to recap his week 10 matchup. He'll be here for the full previews and the power rankings. No guest this week either. JP, before we jump into your recap, the first match that we're going to go through week 10, how are we doing?
Doing good. We're doing good. Happy to be back for another episode as always. Team had a great victory this week, so happy to be back.
Yeah, great victory indeed. We can jump right into that. 180.24, 153.68. Luke, another high scoring performance in a defeat and a loss. JP, I'll let you start. I'll let you lead with this. Just overall takeaways from your guys and what was another big week.
Yeah, I actually was laughing to myself. Scored 180 points this week, and when Sleeper gives out the like awards weekly, I wasn't even the overachiever, scoring 180 points, which was a little. I thought that was humorous. But we did all this from a par week from Henry, a par week from Cup, an underperformance from Thomas, who's about to be sitting on the bench, and an underperformance from Jefferson. Shout out to Travis Kelsey and the two Cardinals for really balling out. Kareem Hunt's been a steady rock. He was so inefficient on the ground, but they threw him 10 passes. Shout out Patty Mahomes for that. Luke kept it interesting. I can't lie. There was a point in time where I got a little nervous. And then in the afternoon games, I passed them up and never looked back from that. But good things from his team as well. You love to see Bijan getting that involved with two tutties. Uh, I could easily be making this stat up, but it feels like the first time Bijan's ever had a game where he scored two touchdowns. And then George Pickens, ever since Russ has taken over, has been an absolute beast. True, looking like a true wide receiver, not one. So that's good to see. And then I have Hawk in a redraft league, and he only got 15.5. So that tight end premium really coming to fruition there, getting to 21.2. So, tough to be on Luke's side of the coin, but happy to be on my side. So.
Yeah, most definitely. Takeaways I had, yeah, you mentioned it. My big thing from you was obviously Lamar Jackson continuing to just play unreal, both in normal, regular football and in the fantasy realm. Hunt and Harrison were fantastic. This Kelsey trade that you made, JP, continues to look like one of the best midseason deals, not only this year, but potentially in the 3 year history of the league. I know it's early. I know you've only had him for a couple of weeks, but he went, what, 30 plus in his Benjamin Haggerty debut, and now he goes for 26 here this week after such a slow start to the season. Welcome back, Christian McCaffrey. It's good to see him back on the field. Obviously, not totally the week you were looking for out of him, but still, it's probably just awesome to have him back in general. And yeah, my big takeaway for Luke, another unfortunate case of the right showing against the wrong opponent. You hit it both on the head. My two guys that I looked at were Bijan and Pickens, both continuing to be problems. And Hawk as well, yes, should be turning it up a notch right about now. And this week kind of showed that. So he had some good takeaways. And I believe this is the third time this year Luke has gone over 150 and has lost. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just truly, it's a luck thing. And that's half of what we do here. Fantasy football, it's half luck at the end of the day. It does take skill to assemble the roster and think to set the right lineup and play the right guys, but you can't control what your opponent does. So that's where things just get a little tough. And has to keep his head down and get after. I believe he's 4-6 now following
Yep.
this loss. Makes things a little bit more tight for him, a lot less margin for error in the playoff chase. So that was an easy one that we had to pick. All of these were pretty easy. This was a light preview week for week 10 as we get right into my matchup. And I guess I'll start it here against Cam Boyer. 158 to 114 in the only match that we talked about in the previews last week that was going to be close, was going to be competitive and something to look out for. And this wasn't even the closest match when we look at final scores from week 10. The way I phrase it, it's another leave no doubt win. These guys left no doubt this week. Joe Burrow's the absolute man. Awesome showing on Thursday Night Football. Good to see Puka kind of get back to his regular self-ish. I know he's capable of much more than 18, but it helps that he played the whole game and didn't throw a punch this week. Calvin Ridley's been awesome. Such an up and down roller coaster year from him so far. But I gave up a second Beaver for him early on, right before the season started. And seems to be a good move as of right now. Mike Gesicki, and I know this is something we talked about in the preview last week, and it was you had taken Cam to win this, JP. And a big thing for me and part of that decision was having guys like Jake Ferguson with no Dak Prescott, Javonte Williams, and Keenan Allen in my. And I literally had it a couple hours before kickoff Thursday night where I said, you know what? I don't love Javonte Williams against Kansas City. I feel like that's a tough, obviously, a really good run defense and a good defense in general, but I just don't feel great about it. I'm not saying Mike Gesicki, lit the world on fire, but he scored 8 more points than Javonte Williams. So I think Mike Gesicki, the rest of the way, I gave up Cole Kmet in that trade with Dade for Tank Dell. I think he might be a guy who I could stream in my flex if I run into any injury issues, if I need a spot start here or there. He's certainly not a guy I'm going to rely on, but I think that's a guy who has kind of stepped up. It's and funny enough, I totally forgot how I got him. I landed him in that Kamara trade with Cam Boyer back in March. So that trade continues to look a little bit stronger for me. It's just nice to see that it wasn't a total dud from him. And I guess all I could say about Cam is he just fell extremely flat again this week. It doesn't help when you don't have any quarterback production. And Jared Goff throws 5 interceptions on Sunday Night Football. Um, Other than that, no real boom except for Mixon and maybe Tyrone Tracy. I guess he overplayed his projection, but those are really the only booms. So another good week for the fellows. We moved to 8-2. It all kind of feels strange being at 8-2 record through 10 games. I always mention that I was 6-1 in the first 7, the league's first year, but we talked about it before this third season got underway. My record, I believe I was literally either a game or two under 500, right at 500, just the definition of mediocre. So it feels kind of weird being atop of the pack in certain ways, but just another good win. And this is one that my schedule is tough the rest of the way, having Cam Boyer, you, JP, Jake, and Frankie. This is a game we really needed to win, and we took care of business. So it's just happy with how things look this week.
Yeah, and if Drew ever rewatches the episode, I'm sure he'll be happy I said this. I've thrown in the towel on Cam Boyer's team. Uh, I was shocked when he made absolutely no moves at the deadline. Him of all people, I couldn't believe sat there and did nothing. Waddle actually might be mid. Debo just looks slow almost. And so games where his running backs don't go for 20 plus all of them, he struggles. And you did point out, I mean, the lack of production from quarterbacks, that's going to hurt. The Goff 5 interceptions hurts, but I mean, even Goff doesn't throw 5 picks. Let's say he throws no picks. You still beat him by 30. I mean, it's not even like he was in this and made this competitive. At no point in time did I ever think Cam Boyer was winning this matchup right from kickoff on noon. But yeah, great showing from you. Happy to see what Herbert's doing. I'll get to that later. But yeah, your team looks solid right now, and a team I would definitely call the second best in the league at this point.
Little teaser for our power rankings to come a bit later on. This matchup ended up being the closest, I believe, in point differential for the week in the margin. It probably was one we weren't expecting to be that. Frank against Jack, 121 to 112. JP, this got tight at the very end. It could have really gone either way. Looking at it with Frankie's Detroit Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs playing on Sunday Night Football, but some big performances from Jack's team. And the way I describe this best, I'll let you lead. But the only thing I had here, Jack wasted a golden opportunity to completely steal a win here in week 10. Just want to go over your general takeaways from this game.
Yeah, I know there was rumblings of him potentially playing Mechie. And obviously we can say whatever with Scantling playing or him playing Dalton Schultz but there was true rumblings of Mechie getting into the lineup, and that obviously would have been a difference maker in this. I just remember with like going into the fourth quarter, it was looking like Jack was going to win. I mean, Frankie was still down like 18 points. Was going to need a miracle, and I think like the third play of the fourth quarter, St. Brown scored his touchdown, and that pretty much put Jack to sleep. But yeah, this one really hurt too because the battle for the 1 seed is really starting to heat up, and and I say we really needed Jack to steal this one to prevent Frankie from potentially getting the 1 seed. Didn't luck out that way, but Frankie's got to be a little worried at least. Zay Flowers only getting 6 targets in a 35-34 game. Kincaid not doing much and injured. Also didn't practice today, Wednesday, the 13th of November. There's just a lot of things I think that are starting to stack up against Frankie, and this could be the curse that was placed on him in the first season really starting to come to fruition. But yeah, I don't know. This one stings a little. Was hoping Jack could have pulled this one out, but
Yeah. You mentioned Kincaid. He's been laying eggs all year. I have him in a redraft league, and I was super pumped when I got him at the round that I did. He hasn't. I've since had to play a different tight end in that league because I can't rely on him every week. So that's just been tough, especially from the tight end position. CJ Stroud continues to struggle. Yeah, so as we look at Kincaid, he's got a 15 and 16. He's got a few of those games, but it's just not. He's got plenty of duds that he's laid as well, just inconsistent. For Frank's team, though, you want to shout out Drake London, Amon-Ra St. Brown, big games from those guys. You mentioned that Amon-Ra St. Brown touchdown late in the Lions-Texans game on Sunday Night Football that really gave Frank the victory. And what I look at from Jack's team, I mentioned already the wasting a golden opportunity. Chase Brown is legit. That dude is awesome. And he's showing it both obviously on the field, but in a fantasy perspective as well. It's that Mechie for Raymond swap. Literally, he's got Raymond who dropped the goose egg. It's crazy that what one change can make. That's the match right there. And we go on to talk about this later on in the show, but if he starts Mechie over Raymond, and if he puts anyone else in the lineup, he being Jack, besides Josh Downs in week one, he's not 4-6, he's 6-4. And these are all what ifs. That's how fantasy football is. But it's crazy how a couple of decisions can help or hurt you. And in that case as well. So Frank gets away, sneaks out with a victory, has won now 8 in a row as we move on to our next matchup. Mr. Zaparo, Jake, hello, I'm Mr. Frog against the mighty Polacks. And JP, another quiet showing from Jake despite the victory. Not pretty, but got the job done. His Tampa running backs, along with A.J. Brown and George Kittle, were really the only guys that showed out. But because of this victory, Zippy's 5-5 with 4 weeks left to play. He's still hanging around the playoff race a little bit here.
Yeah, even I'm sure in part this is because they blew out Dallas. But you like to see AJ Brown still getting 100 yards, only on 5 catches, 7 targets. Barkley really not getting super involved. I mean, 15 touches is a fine workload. No touchdown there, so that really makes it look worse than it is. But yeah, it's hard, especially when the Bears are getting killed these past couple of weeks. The offense has just been stale with Swift because you don't expect them to run much. And then the one who's been really sticking out to me is Jamison Williams. Has been, I was going to say, his last 2 games he's actually played were horrifically bad. So he's looking like someone who can win or lose you a game. I was going to
Yeah.
say a season, but I'm not going to count Jake in the playoffs yet. Someone you throw in your lineup hoping they go for 25 or they end up with 3 or 4. Very remnant of Gabe Davis 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Is where my mind's been with him. But yeah, not much to take away from Zippy. He's lucky he was playing Cam. George Kittle's been a beast though, and like you mentioned, yeah, the Tampa running backs. He finally got the memo to play both of them this week, and it finally paid off, I guess. But again, he's playing Cam Crook, so celebrate lightly.
For sure. And my takeaways for Cam, I just have written down here, not much to be said. It is cool to see Ricky Pearsall find some pay dirt, especially after all that he went through before the season started. Good to see him on the field scoring a touchdown. I wrote Mac Jones is fun. That's cool. I guess I don't really know what else to say about Mac Jones getting involved. It's not like he played well.
No.
And then just a rough day for Baker, but even a good day from Baker, a really good day from Baker wouldn't have made much of a difference. So just one of those. Cam's got 4 more weeks he's got to get through, and then it's the off season. You're looking at the draft. You're looking at moves to make and get your team ready for the 2025-26 season. Crazy to say that out loud. Or I guess it's just 25 because we don't go into week 18. We don't go past the New Year. So the getting ready for the 2025 season. An easy matchup for me, JP, and Drew to pick. We all got that one correct as well as we continue to move right along in a matchup that wasn't particularly close. Dade once again going south of 55 points. Kale finishing at 132. And when we look at this match in particular, a lot of it is because of Jamar Chase's performance of a lifetime, 55 points. Literally, JP, nobody else on Kale's team I really had to note, with the exception of Austin Eckler, who overshot his projection. And for Dade, Purdy, once again, really the only relevant guy in his lineup. Not much to say about this matchup in general.
Yeah, no. Not a lot to add. You almost got to be disappointed if you're Kale. You get a guy in Jamar Chase and he scores a third of your points. You have 9 other guys and they can't even muster another 150, 120. I don't know. Kale season's probably over. Even though he's 5-5, it's probably time to close the door on Kale making the playoffs. Jamar's not going to get 55 every week. And
Yeah.
like you said, Eckler is literally the only other guy to even note that did something remotely useful. And I saw Najee's on the injury report, may not play this week. So then he's got to plug Jalen Warren, which who knows if that makes anything better. Uh, yeah, and then nothing for Dade. I mean, Purdy, the only notable guy, like you said. So
0-10, 4 losses away from the first ever imperfect season in the history of Beaver Fest. How about that? Something crazy to note. As we get to our final matchup before we welcome the Beav onto the pod, another guy in the league scoring 54 points this week, Mr. Ty McCain, our guest from a week ago. Matt putting up 128. I think this is very similar in terms of how I put it to Zippy. For Matt's sake, not pretty, but got the job done. You got to get wins any way you can. Big game for Hubbard off that contract extension. Another solid game from Terry and Sutton, too. JP, this is where we get into things. We're going to talk about it in preview. This gets a lot of fun in the South now, depending on how things go in Matt's matchup and Cam Boyer's matchup this week. I know this past week 10's matchup, not much to be said, but Matt's getting it done no matter how, any means necessary. He's taking care of business.
yeah, and to say this is an ugly week, I can't because I think he scored the fourth most points this week. And it's just a down week for fantasy football. He puts up
Yeah.
128, which I mean is still the fourth most points this week. Sorry you got to hear that, Luke. Luke would have beat everyone in the league besides me and Andy. So just tough for Luke. But yeah, Matt's getting it done. Bryce Young, I'm not actually, I have nothing to say about Bryce Young, but yeah, Chuba Hubbard getting 28 carries and 4 catches, 32 total touches. Good stuff. Sutton's been a receiving beast this year. Not so much finding the end zone, but he's been getting the target share that you like to see out of a fantasy guy. And then, yeah, I don't know. DJ Moore, that trade, it makes sense. Get a little younger. Both ways, get Hubbard, get rid of Connor. But I don't know if this is going to help Matt win the championship in this window. I guess it might pay off in 2 years when Moore's 29 and Caleb is top 5 quarterback in the league. Notice how I said is, not may or will be, is a top 5 quarterback in the league. It'll probably pay off then, but for now it's DJ Moore is one of those guys who you can't sit because, of course, he'll blow up then, but you
Yeah.
probably need to sit if we're being honest because I don't even know if he's a top 40 receiver right now. How is he wide receiver? Oh, because he's had 2 spike weeks. Fine. Wide receivers have had a down year. Point is though, Moore has just not been that great this year, and the Bears offense hasn't. But shout out to Matt, 6-4. And yeah, we'll talk about it later in the episode, but Matt's making things interesting atop the South.
I didn't even realize the fact that if Luke had played anyone but me and you, that he would have won this. That is really unfortunate. Hey, everyone, you've experienced that a couple of times this year. If you
Yep.
play mostly everyone else, unfortunately, that's just how the cookie crumbles in fantasy football half of the time. Those are our first 6 recaps from week 10. We still got one more, and we're going to be joined by our good friend the Beaver. As we get to him, we preview week 11, and we got our power rankings right here to come on Just Beavin. We got one last recap to do, and he's here, folks. He's arrived. The Beaver has joined the show. Drew, how are we doing, sir?
Good, good. Just got done playing IM football. Won 14-13, got the game-winning tutty. So, couldn't be any happier.
Attaboy, Beaver. And right on cue, we get to put you on the spot. Your matchup, rounding out our recaps here from week 10. You had yourself what we can call a bye week and having Brady putting up 64, 127 for you, Drew. And obviously didn't need a lot to get the job done this week, but I'm sure you wish there was a little bit more put out on the field by your guys in the effort this week.
No, Devontae Adams having a stinker. 13 receptions, though. I like seeing that. Just couldn't catch the ball there. Devontae Smith, I talk about him every week. He's one of those guys where he's going to either have a 50-yard bomb in a tutty or he's going to have no receptions. I mean, we all know Jalen Hurts' guy is A.J. Brown. It is what it is. But, you see there Monty down week. It's just whatever Dan Campbell or Ben Johnson, whoever he wants to hand the ball off that week. So, I mean, but hey, I got to be happy about James Conner. I mean, we're out to get only 12 carries and he gets me 22 points. My bad. But yeah, first drive of the game, marches down the field and bam, touchdown. I couldn't have been any happier. But yeah, I like the result this week, and it's gonna be a bumpy couple matchups. I got a couple guys coming on some buys, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, this JP puts on your screen right now. James Cook was awesome too. How about Jatavion Sanders? Only 8 receiving yards,
You
obviously, but
know,
finds some pay dirt
I
again as well.
I was gonna bring him up, but I don't know what your guys' thought about that. I didn't want to get flamed, but hey,
The snap share is the whole story.
I know, man. I got flamed for taking him in the rookie draft. Everyone telling me he wasn't gonna be any good, and hey, ever since Bryce Young took over for Andy Dalton, I mean, his production's been going up every week. I mean, as you
When
see,
did you take
13
him?
points. I
What
think
Fourth
I
round?
took
round,
him.
first pick of the fourth round. Or no, that was
Wow.
Blake
Yeah,
Corum,
no,
fifth
I
pick of
took
the
him.
fourth
Who
round.
flamed who flamed you for that then? If it's a 4th round pick. You did? Okay.
JP, I think
I
I'm
didn't
not
really
putting him on this.
flame him for it. I just said that I don't like Jatavian Sanders.
Yeah.
When he
Any
made the pick, I mean, that was an appropriate spot to take
yeah,
him. I mean,
any 4th
he
round
And
should have,
guy.
yeah, he should have been in the third round. He fell to
yeah,
the fourth. I
fair.
don't think he's that good.
And to be
Yeah.
fair enough, I didn't know he was that small. I thought he was a little bigger.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, what is he, like 6'3"? He's probably taller than that, but
6'4", 250. He's kind of skinny.
yeah, he's pretty tiny. But hey, I do want to point out this. I think I'm gonna tell you this right now. I mean, I might face the matchup, whatever. I think I'm gonna start Will Levis next week.
I would bench Williams too.
Yeah.
You know,
He's about to
I
get
mean that
shredded
Bears.
by that Green Bay defense, bro.
I,
It
We're
is
all
what
gonna
it
be at
is.
the game. It's not
Yeah.
gonna
I'm
be
going to the
fun.
game. I do play Dade this week, so it don't really matter to be
Oh, then I
honest.
would
So
put in Caleb. It'll make the rooting for him 10 times more fun.
yeah, but on Dade's side, I don't know what you boys got to add, but I'd be a little scared about Tank Bigsby. Another down week for him.
Yeah.
Only 2 carries. Yikes! I don't know what you say. David Carr, 20 points. So got to be happy about that. Big MVS week. Oh, and I say David. Fuck me.
You
David
also
Carr,
called
my
you
bad.
also called Brady Dade.
Oh shit! I was already looking toward the next matchup. God damn it. My bad, Brady. But OD. But God, I lost my voice now.
All I had written down for Brady was is Tank Bigsby's 15 minutes of fame up, and I just
Yeah.
literally these are the words shout out Devon Velli and Mac Collins. That's all
I do
I
want to.
have.
I want to say. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
go.
No, I just want to say one more Bears bias thing. Roshan Johnson sucks. He's terrible.
I don't think he's any good. I didn't like him when we took him. I still don't like him now.
It's
We
been a rough
lost
showing
19.
lately.
We lost 19-3. Whoop de doo dah. But I mean, I think he dropped the pass literally right to him, and that could have
I
been
think
10
that was
yards.
tipped at the line. I think I know which one was it the
I
third
don't
and
I
long?
don't I don't know what happened. He just looks very slow, and it
He looks
really
lost.
makes
Does-
it makes me really mad when he's out on the field. I can't even say this, but DeAndre Swift's a better running back than Roshan Johnson, and like I
And you know what?
full-heartedly believe it now. Roshan Johnson's really not good.
And I know
Yeah.
this isn't a Bears podcast, but I'm gonna get into another thing. We had to get rid of Khalil Herbert because Shane Waldron didn't like him in his system, and then we trade him and then we fire OC. I mean, it makes no freaking sense. I don't understand this organization. Like, just someone tell me what's going on. But hey, we got Thomas Brown now calling the plays. I'm praying that something happens here when God puts us on a magic spell and he's Caleb throws for 400 this week, and God, that'd be awesome. But we'll probably throw 3 picks and be sacked probably 10 times this weekend, so you never know.
We'll be making sure
Only
to have a
thing
good time at Soldier no matter what. What do you got, JP?
Only thing I had written down for this matchup is that James Cook is a true running back 1 now, and that Sam Laporta, even though he only had 3 catches, I think 6 targets. I'm gonna actually take a look at this. Has got to be a season high. Okay, ties a season high.
Yeah.
So that's very encouraging. Plus, they threw to him in the red zone, which is also
That's
really
awesome.
encouraging. So just things you like to see there. But beyond that, Beav putting up another stinker. Starting to get a little worried about your team. The names are there. The quote unquote production is there. I mean, 13 receptions for Adams. I mean, Cook's getting 19 carries. I mean, 15.5 is good. Caleb throwing 30 passes. Everyone's volume is there. They just need to put it to work and hit those, projection marks and get a little higher. But yeah, nothing. I have literally nothing to say for Brady. That was a poor showing. So
Yeah, I mean, one more thing I'll add, and you guys can chip in on this too. I mean, Jalen Hurts has basically saved my season. I mean, if he don't score
he's playing
30
some
points
hero
here,
ball.
and if he scores a 15 bomb here, I barely get 100 points. I mean,
Yeah.
so
127 minus 14, 113. Would make it a lot closer, that's for sure. Still would have won, leave no doubt, as we head to our week 11 previews, a direct transition. And guys, we were pretty honest with the viewers last week. We were previewing week 10. Week 10 on paper was the worst week we had of the season. We do get some better matchups, but there are still some stinkers here in week 11. JP, we start with you in Cam Boyer. Cam Boyer coming off a loss against me this past week. But before we do so, we have the matchup pulled up on the screen. Shall we update the records, Mr. McGuire?
We shall. Well, everyone except me went 7-0 last week. As we said on the podcast, the only match that was going to change anything was Andy and Cam. I said 4+ times on the podcast I was just going to pick against the grain, just so we weren't all doing the same thing. I took Cam Boyer. He got blown out by Andy. Shout out to Ty being the first guest to go 7-0. Wasn't an easier week to do it, but still a feat that no one else had done. But now all three of us evened up at 53-17 heading into week 11. But yeah, let's just jump right into this. I'm excited for this matchup for two reasons. One, it keeps my hopes at the 1 seed alive. And two, if I lose, it gives Cam Boyer a weird outside shot at the 1 seed. I believe he still plays Frankie. And so then he would hold the tiebreaker over me and Frankie. And then Frankie plays Andy. So things can and I play Andy. So things can just snowball and fall right into Cam's lap. But the other thing that really makes me excited for this matchup is that Matt and Cam, if I beat Cam this week, Matt's playing a stinker. Matt wins. Suddenly there's a tie atop the South. Even though Cam Boyer holds the tiebreaker, Matt's got a little easier schedule to finish out the season. And so things could really get interesting with that 2 and 6 seed. So there's a lot of implications low key on this matchup. But just getting right into the actual matchup. I was disappointed in C-Mac's performance last week. Didn't really get the volume. And quite frankly, I said in our group chat, he looks slow. He just doesn't. I don't know if he's fully healthy. And I think they're rushing him back because they haven't been meeting expectations. And they're a little worried about that. But I am happy that he's being forced to play ETN against Detroit because they're going to get blown out. And so I don't think there's going to be much pass or much running in that game. Another thing is that Jalen Waddle is actual buns. And so that doesn't worry me. But the thing I'm most excited for is to play Bowers and Kelsey together. Kelsey always goes off against those top tier AFC opponents. And I think he's going to go absolutely insane. And Miami has a terrible linebacking core. And I think Bowers is going to feast in that game. I mean, look at his projections. Projected 17 points as a rookie. Things you love to see. But I'm expecting a win here. Projections pretty much tell the story themselves. I'm taking Benjamin Haggerty and myself to win this.
Beaver, what do you got?
I'm also going to take, sorry. I'm going to take Benjamin Haggerty. Like I said previous, I just don't know what it is. I just don't like Cam's team anymore. The production isn't there. And you can say the same thing about my team. But Travis Etienne, that Jags offense just isn't the same. He ain't going to do anything this week. If you scroll down, like JP said, I'd like to see what receiver is Waddle in this league. He's got to be like 53, right? Might be a little higher. 62. That's, what the price he paid this offseason. What was it that maybe I'm making stuff up, but I think it was a first and third. Hawk and Brooks.
Making stuff up, that's for sure.
Yep. Okay, I am making stuff up. What do you know? Typical me. Anyways, I mean, that's not really a bad trade. Brooks hasn't even played at all, but I do like Evan Ingram's matchup. But other than that, I think Jordan Love could have 40 points this week. I'm going to be honest with you.
Nah, they'll just start running it down our throat when they're up 30 at halftime. If anyone's to play here, it's Josh Jacobs. The running backs always go for like 130 on the ground and like another. Aaron Jones used to have 200 all-purpose yards. Josh Jacobs is going to feast. I would take every over for Josh Jacobs.
Aaron Jones would look like prime Jim Brown against the Bears.
Every time. We made A.J. Dillon look good.
Yeah.
He's horrible.
I am a little concerned about Aaron Jones this week as well. He's going against that tough Tennessee D. But yeah, are you a little worried about Kareem Hunt Pacheco coming back for Kareem Hunt?
They just took him off all they did was take him off the IR. I don't think he's playing this week. So
so it was like the BS. It was like the BS of Nico Collins. Okay.
Yeah, it's just that they opened up his practice window. I don't think they're not rushing. They don't need to rush him back. Kareem Hunt's been phenomenal. So I don't think they're in any need to rush Pacheco.
Yeah, I'll agree with you guys. Keep it short and simple. I got JP, and I saw what Cam's team could do last week, and it speaks for itself. JP, you did talk about the playoff bracket. Would there be a way to pull that up real quick before we
Yes,
get
I
into our
can. I
next
can give
matchup?
a little. I can give a little show to that.
Because I forgot who the number 1 seed was. Oh wait,
Oh,
it's me.
did you?
I just had it. It's got to be on the podcast at least once because I know I'm not going to hold the 1 seed forever. But yes, you can
Once we
see.
start to get a little closer and there's more things, I'll tease the little bracket thing that our great friend Cam Crook set up. He set up this elaborate little. It's awesome, actually. I actually can't wait to show you guys
I'm excited.
once we save this portion of it. It's super sick. So shout out to Cam Crook because he killed it. It's sick.
Let's get my hand, guys.
Good job, Cam.
But
I
yeah,
haven't even seen it yet, but I'm
this is
giving
the
you a round
current
of applause.
bracket. This is the current bracket.
So yeah,
Frankie and Henny God. That 2 seed is low key. The 1 and the 2 seed are like, I mean, granted, but that's like very coveted right now. I mean, because you get to play either one of Kale, Jack, or Zippy, and then the 1 seed it reseeds. So yeah, I mean,
Can I call my shot real quick here?
do it.
Whoever Cam Boyer plays round 1, he's getting beat. No hate to you, Cam.
what if he plays Jack Bauer?
I think Jack beats him.
There you go.
Just
Bookmark this, clip it.
Seventh seed is undefeated in the playoffs. I mean,
Yeah, 7 seeds never lost in our playoffs in the tiers. But just wanted to pull that before we got to our next matchup. And speaking of Jack, he is in our next matchup here. Michael Gentlesir against Brady. Guys, I think we really don't need to talk this really at all. Actually,
can I say I thought they said T-Law's out the rest of the year? Or is that BS?
I
didn't see that. Yeah.
Must have been a fake Twitter. Must have been a fake Twitter claim. Then I gotta delete that app.
Yeah, you guys are poisoned by Twitter. The only thing I'm gonna that I want to say about Jack is Drake May starting to come alive a little bit. I mean, I understand the 11 points. We can ignore that. But just the fact that they're like trusting him to do everything, and he's got wheels. I said it a week ago, and I watched it in the full frontal this week. I mean, the guy's got wheels on him. I can't believe they haven't given him like more true running plays. I get you want to protect your rookie and everything, but even us with Caleb, I mean, there's 0 designed runs in there. It's just bizarre to me. But yeah, no, Drake May looks like the real deal. I still would have taken Neighbors if we redo the draft, but I mean, you get May and a quarterback in your corner long term. We see how hard it is to hit on a quarterback in Dynasty. I mean, it's hard to find guys that are real difference makers. But yeah, I got nothing to say. Jack's winning this.
I know we talked about this in the recap earlier, but I mean, I just cannot believe like if Jack would have started Michi this week, wouldn't he beat Frank?
Yeah, he would have beat Frank, and then think about week 1 if he would have played.
I know that's what I was gonna bring up. Yeah.
So I mean, Jack should really be 6-4 right now, and the playoff should be pretty much locked. So,
couple decisions that shows how tight, how much of a gauntlet, how tough it is in this league. Yeah, across the board, it will be Jack for that match. A little tighter here. Matt taking on Kale. JP, I'll let you start with this one.
I'm curious why Kale's projected so low. Does he have a buy or did he not set his lineup? Oh my God, that's his best lineup. Are you kidding? Oh, because he lost to Dak. Wow. I'm taking Matt. I've been giving Matt praise. I think I ranked him the highest this week in the power rankings. His team has actually been cracked lately. And I actually love his matchups. Speaking of the devil, Josh Jacobs is probably going to get a 35-point bomb this week. Terry McLaurin, even if he's only getting 2 targets, he seems to find the end zone every week. Matt's team is they're starting to heat up at the right time. And Matt could definitely make some noise in the playoffs. I'm taking Matt to win this one.
Yeah, I'm also going to take. Oh, go ahead, Andy. Go back.
I was just going to say, you hit it right on the nail on the head, JP. Despite the big 55-point week from Jamar Chase last week for Kale, I just don't think that's obviously something you can't bank on every week. And you're looking at consistency. That was something that I put as a tough mark against Matt a few weeks ago in power rankings when I put Jacob over him was that Jake's team, you at least knew what to expect a little bit more. Matt's ceiling was higher, but wasn't as consistent. He's hitting that level of consistency now. And with Kale dealing with injuries and losing Dak, I know Dak was kind of throughout the year in terms of fantasy, but he was someone you could rely on for somewhat consistent production, whether in your QB1 or your super flex spot. You don't have that here this week. It leads to an easy prediction for Matt on my end. Sorry, Beef, you can go in now.
No, you're good. I agree with you, but I really think now that's going to help KO at all. I'm going to take Matt here in this matchup. I think this is the week the Dolphins offense clicks. I think this is the week. I think this is going to see a Tyreek big game. But I do want to bring this up. I think KO made the mistake of not making some moves because right now, I mean, heck, I mean, they could move on from Tua next year. They could move on from Tyreek next year, and who knows? I don't even know. I mean, I just think he was an idiot for not making any moves at the deadline and holding his high trade value for all these old heads. So, my word, but I'll just leave it at that. But I got Matt here.
Once again, across the board. Drew, will let you lead with this. There isn't a whole lot to say, though, with Dade putting up 54 this past week. Still doesn't have, or he should have a quarterback with Purdy, right?
Yeah.
San Fran plays this week. Dade 0-10, very well on his way to being the first team to go winless in a Beaver Fest season. Still
Disgusting.
obviously has some guys to put in his lineup, but even when he is at his best possible lineup, it really isn't going to matter. Drew, you are well on your way to a 7-2 record, my friend. Or that's geez, mine are terrible. 9-2. We are on week 11, 9-2 record.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. I mean, Monty, I think he's gonna have a big week. I think he's gonna have 20 plus this week against that Jacksonville D. I'm glad I'm playing Day this week because I think this is gonna be a stinker of a week for James Cook. I just don't think he's gonna have a good week. And I'm really hoping Nico and Amari Cooper play this week. I mean, I'm just waiting on those two. I mean, that wrist injury. I mean, this trade might bite me in the ass if Cooper has to play again this week. I mean, and hey, I got our boy right there.
Hey,
But
good
hey,
thing you got him. Apparently, they want him to start.
yeah, no kidding. But I do want to point this out too. I love the production my rookie running backs are giving me. Trey Benson and Blake Corum. They're finally getting reps. I know you don't see the points, but I'm just liking their seeing production on the field. But yeah, I mean, I don't got really much. I will say this too. I am a little worried about Xavier Worthy. He's had back-to-back stinker weeks, and he's just not looked great. I think he's got 2 targets the last 2 weeks. Then he ran for negative yards. So I mean, not looking good there.
Yeah, I'm just taking Beav. No comment.
there you go. Nice and easy with it. We'll still have a couple of those, not only this week, but throughout the rest of the season. Another one right
Oh my
here,
God.
Exhibit B.
Ty's projected 80 points. Did hell freeze over? How is this so high?
Good for you, Ty. That's actually awesome.
Well, I bet because QJ Quentin Johnson, that's what I call him. He's been playing the hell of the last few weeks. I mean, he's been finding the end zone. I think back-to-back weeks now.
Yeah.
Props to him. Yeah.
Drew and Quentin Johnston, known friends. They're on a nickname basis with one another now. But guys, this is pretty similar. Every game for Jake the rest of the way is a must win. He's 5-5 with 4 games left to play. This definitely helps. He gets himself above 500 here. I like Ty's projection. I think he kind of hovers right around that mark, but kind of what we have with Jake, I think that he'll clear and it won't be much of an issue.
Yeah, fully agree. Taking Zippy there.
Yeah, I'm also taking Zippy.
There you have it. Another one. How about this? After Frank's nail biter last week with Jack on the projections, have another one here with Luke, guys, this week. Frank coming in at 8-2, Luke at 4-6. Similar to Jake, Luke's even a game back at him, so everything the rest of the way means so much more. Frank's won his last 8. Where are we leaning here?
Yeah, why don't you continue this one?
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I'll start it. I'll lean right in. I mean, what have I been saying for the last few weeks? I don't think Frank loses another game until he gets me in week 14. So my pick is going to be Frank, just because, and I know he's coming off a bad week, but similar to what we had at the beginning of the year when he played me and he put up 111. I said it the next week, despite him losing, I said he's not going to put up that bad of a week again. I do not believe Frank puts up another 120-point week 2 straight in a row. I just don't think that's going to happen for him. I think that he clears it no problem. And it's one of those, it could be a high scoring affair. I know Luke's team, they put up a lot of points, and that's been a known thing. He's had a lot of high scoring losses this year, but I just don't see a world where Frank duds in back-to-back weeks. So that's my big reasoning for going with him here in week 11.
Yeah, my reasoning for rolling with Frank here is that I do not like the dependency on the Falcons players going up against Denver. Another thing that really worries me is the not necessarily the matchup of Pickens versus Baltimore, more so the overall Steelers versus Baltimore games always tend to be like disgustingly 16-13, 17-16, and Chris Boswell scores every point for the Steelers. I know they've looked a little better with Russ, but it's just even when the Ravens have the best offense in the league, these games are always disgusting, which worries me for my own matchup. But that worries me that over there. And then I'm also a little worried a bit about Tony Pollard up against that Minnesota team. Brian Flores is defensive genius, and they've been solid against the run, not enough. I just think they're going to force a lot of turnovers against a reckless quarterback in Levis, and so they'll be playing not necessarily behind a lot because I think their defense will keep them in it, but they'll have to go off script a lot and throw the ball, I think, more than they plan on. I cannot believe TJ Hawkinson's projected 15 point. Oh, well, he went for 21 last week. I guess that would make sense then. I still can't believe that. And then Joe Flacco actually sucks. He has lost me 2 weeks in a row in a redraft league. I don't
Oh,
understand why Steichen is still starting him. It's driving me absolutely insane. But I think Frank wins this and bounces back, and not just bounces back by getting a win, bounces back and gets back up in the 155, 160, 165 range. So I'm gonna take Frank in this one.
Where are you siding,
gosh
Drew?
darn. Gosh darn it. I was gonna take Luke, but then I forgot he had Joe Flacco. And that guy has lost me so much money recently. That's all I gotta say. But I will say for Luke's concern, I am worried about Darnell Mooney here this week. He's I don't know. Pat Surtain's probably gonna go on London, but I don't know. That Denver D, like JP mentioned, is really, really good. But I do think uh Zach Ertz is gonna have a banger game this Thursday. Take his props, take his anytime touchdown. I think he's going for 20 plus this week, but I'm gonna take Frank here.
All right. Frank across the board. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to have anyone pull ahead in the records this week. I think we're all having the same picks, which makes
Yeah, we
for a
are.
boring preview. Uh, this is a first. I know Cam still has to put some guys in, but having a 99% chance to win on a Tuesday night is definitely new for me.
Projected to win by 100.
Yeah, how about that? I mean, yeah, I always take myself, so I feel like I'll start, but it's not really a whole lot to say. We talked about what I liked in the recap this past week. I think it's cool that my two quarterbacks get to play against each other on Sunday Night Football. That'll be fun. I wish it was for something. Like I wish I was in the middle of a match where I was actually getting after it and going toe to toe with someone, and where the points mattered. But that'll still be cool
Right.
to watch. Does Cam not have a quarterback this week? I
He
think that's
does.
my next question.
Oh, I think Mac Jones is actually going to play this week.
Okay,
I think
but if
maybe
Mac
that's
Jones
what Drew
doesn't
saw.
play,
If Mac Jones doesn't play, then there's no no
jeez,
quarterback to play.
yeah.
So
I'll watch
You
my
can't have a
guys
good
this week
time.
because I do that every week, but I know that this isn't something I'll have to monitor as close as I normally would. Let's just put
yeah,
it that way.
yeah.
Just we'll keep.
Only note I got for you, Yak, is you got to be insanely happy with the rushing production from Herbert here.
Mm-hmm.
Not only 32 yards, but 9 attempts, a touchdown. I remember talking to Ty in the offseason, and this was my big. Right after the trade was made, I remember texting in our school group chat and saying like this Greg Roman hire means that like he may only get 4 to 5 to 6 carries a game. He's running the ball. Like Justin Herbert is going to run the ball in a Greg Roman offense. There's no way
Right.
around it. And we're seeing what that's opening up too, because he's slinging the rock. I mean, every praise I've given to Herbert being a top 5 quarterback and better than Joe Burrow, which I still believe, is being brought to fruition here. Now I think they're going to need another guy to really elevate his play style because Greg Roman, as we know, they don't win big games. You can't run the ball 40 times a game and win big games when it really matters. And he definitely limits Herbert as a passer, only giving him, 24, 25, 26 passing attempts a game. But from a fantasy standpoint, you got to love the running. And so I think that's a big thing that I took away from this week in particular when I saw him running the touchdown. So, but yeah, and I'll talk more about that later when we get a little farther into this. But really like what I saw from Andy's team, and I love what I'm seeing from Herbert.
Beeve?
Yeah, I got you by landslide, Yak. JP said it hit it on the money. I don't have really much to add. You hit
Yeah,
what I was gonna say. So
We'll see what happens with DK Metcalf. Unsure if he'll be back this week.
a lot
But
of
either
injuries
way,
this year.
yeah, and that's once again. I know that the big joke around the league is I'm the guy who gets tabbed with the most injuries, but I don't even think that's the case this year. I've been hit pretty hard, but so has everyone. So, luckily for me, it doesn't really matter this week, but it will down the stretch. So I'm just hoping to get healthy to close out this season. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back here very momentarily. Our power rankings to close out this week's show coming up right now on Just Beavin. Rounding out the show like we always do, right here, the power rankings for week 11. You see movement from everyone except two teams, JP. So much to be changed as we enter the final quarter-ish of our regular season, including finally, to your approval, a new number one.
Yeah, when you guys sent them to me, and I got your guys is literally almost 24 hours apart, and then just seeing my after all the weeks of putting myself at one, even through all the turmoil, to see myself up top with that +1 in green, and a clean sweep across the board, it's very fitting. The one thing I do want to talk about, although I don't like to really give my breakdowns on this part, was Andy, I did feel the need to put you at 2 this week. I think your team has outperformed Frankie for probably the last 3 to 4 weeks. And, we always talk about consistency, and you specifically are always talking about consistency. And I just haven't seen that from Frankie this year, the way I've seen it from you. And I think your quarterbacks really, as I talked about in the preview, Justin Herbert now becoming almost a full-on runner, not a full-on runner, but you get the premise. And then A-Chain and Kamara have looked great. And then you're only going to get better when Metcalf comes back. Calvin Ridley suddenly is looking like a good fantasy option. And even with Puka dud weeks, you're putting up 150, 155, 160 points. So here are your flowers. I thought you deserved top 2 spot. Was shocked when you didn't put yourself there, although I do get it. Frankie's team on paper is still absolutely loaded. But Beav, dropping a spot. How do you feel over there, Mr. Rice-A-Roni?
Give me a minute. Hold up. My bad. I'm fucking starving. I'm sorry. Long day. I'm feeling fine. Just like I said in the recap and the preview, team's on a little cold streak, but I think Shuey's gonna get it back together, and I'm not really that concerned. We got our OC Han Solo over there, so I'm not real concerned. I get Nico Collins hopefully back this week, so just in time for Matt, our matchup next week. But yeah, I'm not really too concerned. I'm hoping Devontae Adams' production goes up, but 13 targets. I mean, what are you gonna ask for more? I mean, he's got to catch the ball, so.
And yeah, I just talked about consistency, and now Yak, you're the one who's always, pulling the consistency card. You got Cam Boyer at 5, ranked below or above Hendricks here, Matt. And so I'm curious on the thought on that.
It's a record thing, purely a record.
It's a record
at that
thing.
point. Yeah,
completely. That's a completely valid take.
Yeah, it's just that's so boring. I feel like I should have came with more of a roster this, roster that. It's just a record. That's literally it. As I looked at the records at that point, which I know I am a little kicking myself for not putting me at 2, but I feel like that's almost a force of habit having you Frank up at 1 and 2, whichever order it is. But yeah, at that point with keeping Cam at 5 despite the down-ish week, it was just a record thing as to why he stayed in that 5 spot for me.
Yeah, and B, why don't you talk about Luke jumping up 2 spots all the way to 6, even though the record does not reflect where we have him ranked, sitting at 4 and 6 there. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, he's putting, like we said earlier, Yak, he's consistent, man. He's consistent. Just playing the wrong guys right now. He scored 155 plus the back-to-back weeks, the last 3 weeks. I mean, I got to give the guy credit. I mean, 4 and 6. I mean, sometimes your record doesn't show. I mean, look at the Dolphins. I mean, granted, they're 3 and 7, 3 and 6 now. I mean, but hey, they've been putting up points. All right, that's a bad analogy. God, that's bad. Not the Dolphins. The Bengals, my bad. Or even the Buccaneers. I mean, fucking Baker's lost in overtime twice, and then he loses in 30 seconds. I mean, what the fuck do you want me to do for the guy anymore? I mean, I feel bad for him at this point. But that's how Luke's team's going right now. He basically is losing in overtime. He's basically Baker Mayfield. That's a scene. Baker Mayfield this year.
Yak, why don't you talk about just 7 through 10 here? Quick little rundown on the movements between Cam and Zippy, and then the no movements between Kale and Jack.
Yeah, Cam dropping 2. You guys both had him at 7. I had him at 5 for the reasons that I just said. So obviously by law of averages, that brings him down. I don't have to wait my pick to bring him up really anymore. I think it's interesting that we all stuck with Jake at number 8, but it's also kind of fitting just based on it's middle of the road. He's 5-5. I mean, it just kind of adds up. That's how it should be. But he's got an opportunity. He's still on the outside. I wouldn't consider it a long shot, but he doesn't have the inside track and playoff spot right now. But based on a couple of matchups he has to close out the year, I wouldn't close the book on him making the playoffs yet, but he's still just kind of hanging around that weird middle ground. And then we also all agreed at Kale at number 9, and he's one of 2 guys along with Jack to stay in their spots this week. JP, I know you mentioned or you asked me last week why I kept Kale at 9 and Jack at 10, despite in terms of production and all that. It's just one of those where you go to the veterans on Kale's team, the guys that Drew, continues to say, oh, he wouldn't move off his price. I think those are the guys that keep him hanging around in certain matchups. Or in last week's case, despite playing a not as up to his level opponent, you get 55 from Jamar Chase. That is a game-changing performance. That wins you most matchups, unless you're going against someone who's putting up 170, 180, 190. So I think him having a guy like that on his team really alone keeps him in that realm for me. And 7 through 10, it's one of those. I don't know if Cam Boyer's been as low as 7 at any point in our in-season rankings, but 8, 9, and 10, we've seen those guys kind of hang around this range mostly through the season, but especially in the last 3 to 4 weeks.
Well said. And I think for the first time in the last 4 weeks, 11 through 14, we all kind of had it discombobulated in some fashion. Really not much to add with these guys. We're really just ranking them pretty much week to week based on how many points they score the week prior.
And I'll put my hand up. I just didn't touch it on mine this week.
Completely valid.
I probably could have, but I
There's
just
no need to.
It's at that point I have to dig super deep. Not saying for no reason, but I have to dig really deep to try and find little reasons to flip. Our bottom 4. Our bottom 4 is our bottom 4. That's how it's going to turn out in the draft. That's how it's going to turn out by the end of week 14. So yeah, I mean that could be seen as laziness on my part, so I apologize. But I didn't really give it much of a look. I kind of just kept it as is.
I do want to throw this out there too, just kind of like I do every show at the end of the show. It'll be interesting to see what Zippy does. He's still on that playoff edge, but if he doesn't make it and he falls into that 5th overall pick, do we think he goes after his pick? I don't know who has it. I think Brady might have it. Or no. I think Cam has it.
It just got moved in a trade, I feel like.
The T. Higgins trade with Luke.
Oh, so Luke has it.
I do believe.
No, I think that was Matt's. I think
Matt's.
Drew's right. I think Cam Crook might own it. Yeah.
But
Because it got moved in the Barkley, Jackson Smith, and Jigba fiasco. Actually, when we were all over at your house, Andy.
That's right. I remember that. Okay. Yeah. Yes. It's all adding out now. There you go.
My rice boy.
But yeah, you bring up a good point, Drew. That's one of those. We'll just kind of have to wait and see how things line up and weigh out. I'm telling you right now, I literally was just looking at my matchup with Jake. I play him in week 12. And based on who I'm able to play due to bye weeks of Joe Burrow and Alvin Kamara, which is tough to have those guys both on a bye in the same week, Jake's favored to beat me right now. And I'm not saying to no fault of my own. I'm down a couple of guys that week. So talking about it earlier, he's got a couple more wins, and all of a sudden his match against me, that's next week. That looks a lot like it's going to be a lot more competitive than it probably could have been if I would have had guys not on bye weeks. So I know we're still talking as if it's foregone conclusion that he's out. He's got 4 games to go. And to my knowledge, maybe there's one on his schedule that'll be tough, but I know at least for a fact, 2 of them are pretty winnable. And one of them could be a toss-up game. So that could be more of a conversation we have at the end of the year if he doesn't get in, but he doesn't have the inside track, like I said earlier, but crazier things have happened in this league. So that's a wait and see situation, but it will be interesting to kind of look at what happens if, yes, he doesn't make the playoffs yet again in the 3rd year of this league. I don't know what else you guys have to add onto that, but
that was all I was going to bring up was that was my favorite stat brought up last episode was the fact that we're in our 3rd year. And I don't know if, Zippy's going to make the playoffs yet. Can be the only original member, but we'll see on that one.
I have 2 things.
Go for it, Drew.
One, I have a spicy opinion. I think ties might be Jack week 14.
I do not.
I don't either.
Number two.
All right,
This
hold
is
on,
my
hold on.
opinion. This is why
Hold
they're
on,
called
hold on,
opinion.
hold on. I just want to then I think when we get to week 14, you should have to take Ty regardless because that's your opinion.
I don't hate
And I
that.
think I
Okay,
think
okay.
I
To be
think you got to
fair,
stick by your takes. Or
all
what or
right.
what credibility do you have as a
Okay,
podcaster if you don't
that
stick by your
that is
takes?
okay. That is fair, but I have to see who he starts first. Is that valid? Is that
Sure,
valid for
man.
both of you?
Sure.
Sure.
Because here's my thought. Because this is rival week, okay? He's gonna try to win that game because his pick, if he wins that game, is not gonna matter. He's gonna stay at 4 regardless.
Well, what if he loses the crook?
I think he already didn't he already play Crook?
Mm-mm.
Is that next week?
Yeah. Could be in two
Well,
weeks. I have no idea.
I don't think he's losing the Crook. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. So that puts Jack. Here we go. Back at it. Back to my conclusion. I know I'm holding this out. I'm sorry, but I think he's gonna beat him because if he beats him, he's still gonna be at that that fourth spot, and it's rival week. He's gonna try to make Jack mad. And he's gonna try to push him out of the playoffs.
All right, that's
That's
your
valid.
take. That's your
Oh,
take.
and number two. Sorry, my bad.
No,
I'm
no,
sorry to
you're
interrupt
number
you.
two. Mine is about my matchup this
No,
week. It's completely off
no.
topic.
I was just gonna say I would love if we could, if I can do it, or if we can get overall records next show, just everyone's overall record in this league.
Yeah, we can pull that up on Sleeper. Should be pretty
You
easily
know what I mean?
accessible.
I think that'd be a fun stat to show.
There you go. We
Or is
can
that
do that.
or is that unnecessary? Or is that unnecessary?
I don't
JP
think
doesn't
it's
look too thrilled
unnecessary.
about that.
No, my thought was, I mean, we should probably wait. That could be like a, end of the season thing when like everyone's record is really set in stone.
Yeah,
That was all I was
probably.
thinking.
Just live brainstorming here on the show. Last thing I do have with my matchup, because I was looking at all my guys playing this week. I didn't even set my lineup in our preview. I have David and Njoku that I'm playing. So currently, I know Cam has guys on a bye. It's currently 145 on my end, to 38 on his end. So it is a north of 100-point projection. But that'll change. That'll change because Cam has some guys. He's got 3 guys in his lineup on a bye right now. We're recording this on a Tuesday night. So literally, the week 10 just ended yesterday. So there is time for people to set lineups. I mean, I forgot that I had David and Njoku on a bye last week, and I needed to put him back in. So there are still things from our preview that we did tonight that need to be obviously updated for matchups. But there you have it, folks. That rounds out yet another episode of Just Beavin. Before that, though, JP's got one last thought.
Yes, I actually there was a warning
Oh,
violation this week that occurred. Dade Pitchford left Jonathan Brooks in his lineup, who was ruled out the morning of, not only the morning of, but minutes before the game. And I came to a ruling that I am not going to enforce the warning against him. I understand that the auto sub thing is a feature, but even I fell for the Jonathan Brooks trap as I took 2 of his props on a FanDuel boost for that game. And so I completely understand not doing it. And I know I'm not supposed to use this logic. And so I'm not using it as an excuse. I'm just putting it out there for information. All he would have done was put Carson Steele in, and he only scored 0.3. Again, that had no impact on my decision. I just think that it was a complete blunder, and that he got screwed by the Panthers as an organization. And so my final ruling is that he is not going to lose his second round pick. For those of you who watch and make it here, if you guys want to discuss it in the group chat, feel free to. I'm willing to hear people's reasons for why he should. But for now, the case is closed until you guys obviously get there, and then someone's going to get so mad. But for now, I am not stripping him of one of his seconds. I think that it was more of a Panthers thing than a Dade thing. So I just want to put that
I
out
agree.
there.
No, I'm glad you brought that up because I agree with you because they were saying he was playing all week, and
Yeah.
as they say he's out at 6 a.m. because the
I was
game
gonna
was
say, I think if there was a 12 o'clock
yeah
game, it would have impacted my decision. But
yeah. I mean because no one's setting their alarm. I mean
the
we are
stupid.
dedicated men. We are dedicated men. I will say this for this league, but we love doing other things on Saturday night, getting after it with our buddies and doing that stuff. And I don't think anyone's setting an alarm for 6 a.m. to get up and change a lineup error that's gonna not do anything for you.
Yeah. And that is
especially
our
for
last European game, hopefully this year, I think.
I believe it is.
Thank goodness. I hate those. They're so stupid.
Hey, but tune in for Disney Plus, Browns Cowboys.
There you have it. Right on cue. Thank you, Beef. Once again, folks, appreciate you guys all tuning in to this episode of just Beavin. No guests this week. That is okay. We had to split it up into parts due to scheduling and just having busy lives as we're coming up on the Thanksgiving holiday in just a couple of weeks. Us having to get some things done and just kind of prepare for what is to come. These guys are out at school and all the good things. So, yes, thank you so much for tuning in to this installment. We appreciate the support. Subscribe, like, comment. Go follow us on Instagram as well, beaver.fest, for all the information and more on this
You couldn't
league.
have got
We will
frozen on a
catch
better
you
screen.
guys next week. Good stuff, Beaver. We'll see you soon.